SURLY has dropped a new bike on Craigslist, an interesting new bike rack trend, and then just a bunch of weird random stuff. Welcome back, everybody, to the new hotness, your weekly update of all things alternative cycling. Still on Instagram, so you don't have to be. And this episode is brought to you by the folks over at Cycle Limited because new bike day shouldn't cost like new bike day. Apologies for the set. I'm on the road, and this is actually my childhood bedroom. We're back in the States for the Maid Show. Be sure to check out our coverage of it about next week. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to take a look at is this alt cycling event called the Itty Bitty Bike Race, which might actually be today, Saturday, 8/16. Oh, it was yesterday. Anyway, so this event happened this weekend. It is the Itty Bitty Bike Race. It took place in Houston. I think this is their second year event. And basically, it looks like goofy fun on small bike. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of small wheel bikes. I think it's on trend. I think it's actually going to stick this time. So it's super cool to see events like this and the Mini Bike Festival in Berlin. If you made it this year, let me know how it was. Hopefully they'll do another one and other small bike events will pop up. Next bit of news is a interesting drop from the folks at SimWorks. They've come out with these tapered headset spacers. You can see it comes in various stack heights. Like I think there's a 5, maybe like a 10mm one, and then like a 20. But basically what this does, it kind of gives your bike quill stem vibes, even though you're using a threadless headset. It's just a nice, smooth transition between the steer tube and the headset. Pretty cool. I think this is in line with one of the trends I predicted earlier in the year, and that is the boutiquification of like common bike parts. So like valve stems, you can get artisanal valve stems, and it's coming to headset spacers. What do you think of this? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so we're going to talk about some really interesting and weird products from our good friends over at Soma Fab. And this is the Soma handlebar extender. Comes in silver and also black, I believe. But basically what it does is if you have a handlebar that you've cut too short or just came too short like city bars, but you want them a little bit wider, and you put these in the ends and there's an expanding mechanism there so it holds it in place. It doesn't add like 4 inches of length, but enough to make your handlebars a little bit wider if that's what you want. I think this is kind of interesting because in the EU, there's not a whole ton of alt bars. There's lots of city bars which have that kind of sweep that I like, but they tend to be cut really short because traffic. This might be an interesting way to altify some city bars. The next interesting product from Soma is the Soma headset Quillinator with 1-inch headset. And I know you're looking at this and like, what is this thing? Does it just add massive stack height? We've seen quill stem to threadless adapters. This goes the other way around. So if you've got a quill stem or a handlebar setup that you really like, but have a modern bike that's set up threadless, then this allows you to adapt it to that bike. I do have some questions like, does the 1-inch refer to the diameter of the quill or the diameter of the steer tube? Because like 1-inch threadless is kind of rare, I think. And unfortunately, not a ton of information. Basically, it just says, let's use a quill stem on a head system. Keep your threadless headset and fork, but add the look and height adjustability of quill stem. So that is like a tangible benefit. If you've ever changed handlebar height on a threadless setup, got to undo everything, restack the spacers, and you've got some spacers over the stem and it looks kind of blah. This way you gain back that easy height adjustability and cleaner look on a threadless system. But again, some clarification on whether we'll work with an 1 1/8" headset. I'll let Luke know and hopefully they'll update the listing. I think this is really quirky and interesting. And one of the reasons like I'm a big fan of Soma and Mary Sales is that Jim and crew, they're just really good at finding like quirky one-off products. Next thing I want to take a look at is a bag maker called Hungry. Their Instagram is H_NGRY, but it is Hungry, I believe. They make saddlebags and frame bags, pretty straightforward, but they do have some pretty sweet color combinations. The closure system is very reminiscent of the Hootsuite designs, which is no longer, but you can get it in camo and this kind of this lightish coral You can get a matching set from frame bag to stem bags to kind of a carry all, and also like interesting odd shapes. So I'm definitely a fan. Yeah, there's like just a ton of bag makers out there. They all make pretty good product, and at some point, I do think it boils down to the aesthetic. And these guys have this just kind of cool, like subdued vibe to it. So if you're looking for some matchy, very interesting color schemes, and check out Hungry on the Gram. And speaking of interesting bike bags, check out this one. This one made on my gram. And this is a frame bag for an Omnium, but it's made from a recycled IKEA bag. You guys know that IKEA bags are super durable, great, very resistant material. And this is an awesome use for it. I mean, that color is just so iconic that when you see that blue and that splash of yellow from like half a mile away, it will read IKEA. Super cool and fun and functional way to reuse an IKEA bag. And speaking of cool and slightly used things, that's a perfect segue to the new old hotness, where we look at some poppin' used bikes on Cycle Limited. And this one definitely caught my eye, not just because of the cool pink color, but because it is a New House Metalworks hardtail. You guys know I'm a big fan of New House. We've had Daniel, one of the designers there, on the channel multiple times. It's cool to see a bike from them pop up on Cycle Limited. This one is their Solstice, so it's a hardtail, and it's gone through a couple of iterations. The current one is like a 29er all around. This looks like one of the earlier versions that is a mullet, so 27.5 in the rear and the 29er in the front. Love this color. You can see it's got the Cycle Limited sticker here, so it's been looked over by their mechanics. Yeah, mechanical shifting, hydraulic brakes, nothing super blingy, just a nice and functional bike that'd be fun to ride on trails or even take bike packing. And there's a little Easter egg on this bike, and it is the Hardtail Party sticker. You guys know Hardtail Party's got a great channel. I think he's rebranded to Mountain Bike Party. I wonder if this is the one he reviewed on his channel, but that'd be cool. It would have a little provenance as well as being a rad bike in and of itself. If you're interested in this bike, check it out in the link below. And thanks again to Cycle Limited for sponsoring this series. So next thing I want to talk about are these interesting bike mounted racks, one on the seat post and one on the steer tube. I featured these before, but these are just like slightly better pictures of them. This is by a Japanese company called Grown. I believe they make a bike as well as these racks. One advantage of this as opposed to the Caradice Bagman is the Bagman has kind of a fixed distance between the saddle and the top of the tire. And if you're a shorter rider, sometimes it just doesn't work. So this does give you some adjustability to make sure you're not getting tire rub. Here's an assortment of racks here. You'll notice the racks here do have loops, so you can run a strap through and hold things down. And while not a completely new idea, I did review a similar rack from the brand Tim Taz Rec. And what was cool about his design is that it was modular. You could actually swap out the racks for different lengths and angles. But pretty cool. I'm always stoked to see interesting new ways to carry things on the bike. Let me know what you think in the comments below. A couple more interesting details. It looks like the front one also has an area where you can bolt on a light. And again, those loops to run straps through, or in this case, fillet straps. All right, moving on. This is a little bit of an obituary, but the website Euro Asia Imports is officially shutting down. I think they've gotten rid of their stock. They're no longer taking orders. We saw Kyle Kelly from LA post about this. If you're an old school head and was riding bikes in the early aughts, then you know about Euro Asia Imports. It's one of the few places where you could get fixed gear frames, pretty decent ones, lock rings, cranks and cogs, all that good stuff. Probably their most popular frame is the bare knuckle. If you've got a Euro Asia Import bare knuckle from back in the day, you should probably hold on to it because it's because they are going out of business. So this one's for the homies over at EAI. Okay, let's talk about SURLY bikes. Yes, this is a real Craigslist ad. So SURLY, a brand you gotta love, known for their kind of snark, which to be honest has been kind of toned down the last couple years post-pandemic. There are lots of brands not doing so well, SURLY being among them. A bunch of people lamented their old crusty website and when it got replaced with like a Shopify design one. But here it's cool to see they've not lost all their snark. They still have some of the special sauce because this is how they announced their new bike, the skid loader. The skid loader is a midtail mid-drive. It's got a Bosch motor in there, built-in lighting, nice herky rack. But they announced it on Craigslist, or not just Craigslist, but it was one of the means that they used to spread the word. I think this is super clever. I'd love to see them post this on Facebook Marketplace, honestly. They spin some yarn here about their photographer quitting and their marketing manager, going on jury duty. All that to say, a very creative way to do a product launch that would attract some attention, probably some unwanted attention too. I can see lots of people pinging them on Craigslist and then ghosting them at the end. For our Spanish viewers, Craigslist is kind of like Wallapop, a secondhand marketplace. But cool to see that Surly can still get weird in these strange times. Okay, so let's hop over to YouTube. A bunch of interesting channels I've run into recently. One of them is this one called Bike Heritage, and it's kind of best described as bike ASMR. Basically, it's a mechanic that puts on these vintage parts on bikes, tunes them, runs them through the gears. If you're missing those classic looking and sounding components, then definitely check it out. I don't think none of the videos I've seen has had any voiceover or anything, so it's literally just putting these vintage parts on bikes and running it through the gears, and I find it like oddly comforting. There's none of that weird like robotic zip zip sound, just good old fashioned cable pull and chains clanking onto gears. Here you go, something for you triple fans, triple zealots, which tend to comment a lot on my videos. But here's a video that was just posted 2 days ago. Just pure ASMR, 1993 Shimano Dior LX. I think another reason why this stuff is interesting is you can see like how small the rear derailleurs used to be, and also the design progression from kind of like the more like sculpted humanist shape to something a little bit more boxy. This one's kind of in between, some silver, some black. And like I said in my previous video about 90s mountain bikes, the bikes I was kind of hit or miss on, but I do love the components. And this is just a fun, relaxing way uh, to see them in action without actually having to go source them and put them on the bike. All right, next video I'm going to suggest is by our friend Zach Gallardo. He's got this video, Why I Bike in Normal Clothes. Big fan of Zach's. We got a chance to meet right before we left in Sacramento. And he runs through the regular justifications of why someone would want to run cycling specific clothes and why it doesn't work with him. You know, he usually just rides in a t-shirt, I think in jeans. So pretty casual stuff. And I only bring this up because there's just so many videos of people telling you that you have to dress a specific way to ride a bike. I feel like it's good to highlight channels that also propose the counter message or the alternative. If you want to see Zach's take on why he rides in normal clothes and why you might want to too, then check out the link below. Next video I'm going to suggest is this one from Nathan Starzinski, Solo Bikepacking the World, number 12 in Andalusia. This one was just posted recently, so I wonder if he caught any of the heat wave. But Nathan's been on a around the world tour and has done like an amazing job in like filming the experience. Like, good on him. I totally don't have the patience to do this kind of filming anymore. All the stopping, setting up a camera, the narration, all that stuff. But he does a wonderful job. And if you wanted to get a glimpse of what it's like to tour through Spain, I feel like this is a really good representative video, at least for the road touring perspective. Lots of amazing towns, really well shot, nicely narrated, and gives you a real sense of place. If Spain's not your jam, you should check out his channel. He's got one in Portugal, on Nova Scotia, and he's got this really great video on everything that he takes. I was really interested in it because he talks a lot about his camera gear, and you can see he shoots on the Sony system, and man, he brings a lot of lenses. I think he brings like a 24-78, a 20 millimeter 1.8, then like a 300 millimeter zoom lens. He's really taking the filming seriously, and it shows. Like, the stuff is beautifully shot. I could never do this anymore. I did this back in the day, and by the end of our trip, I did not want to lug a big camera anymore. But good on Nathan. If you're looking for some touring inspiration, then go check him out. Especially the Andalusian video. That one was really nicely done. Again, we are headed to Made in Portland, Oregon next week. If you see us running around, definitely say hi. But we are going to have a meetup at the Velo Orange booth at 1 p.m. on Sunday, kind of a more intentional time where I won't be frantically running around filming. So that would probably be best. There might be stickers involved, so definitely check that out. And if you like this roundup, please consider supporting the channel by joining us on Patreon or YouTube memberships. It's like how this whole thing works. Also with the help of just like a few sponsors, awesome folks at Cycle Limited. Also check them out, all the links below. And as always, keep the supple side down.